What's up, nation? Your boy Sly here, and thanks for checking out another Mass Effect Andromeda video. So, as promised, the weapons and skills video dropped earlier today, and it was every bit as awesome as I'd hoped. The combat, the mechanics, everything looked so fluid, and the backgrounds of all the different planets make it look like how I was hoping No Man's Sky would look like. Alien moons in the sky, planets, suns, rings, all of that in detail. So far, guys, I am definitely liking what I'm seeing. I was totally worried about the game, feeling maybe a bit clunky, but after seeing how agile the player was in using all those different combinations, I've definitely put that to rest. So before we get into all this detail, I wanted to add this into my latest news video that I did yesterday, but I ended up forgetting about it. Now, I am in no way affiliated with these people, I just think this right here is a great deal. I found Mass Effect Andromeda Standard Edition for $41.99, and of course that's here in dollars. It's also a pre-order edition, so you'll get the bonuses. That is a steal, man, and I've bought from here before, so I know it's not a gimmick and it's safe as well. Personally, I plan to get it from Origin directly to support them, and you probably should as well. But if you're tight on money, which God knows I am at times, then saving almost $20 is a pretty good deal considering it costs $60 from a retailer or on Origin. Take that as you will, but I want to let everyone know out there that if you can't squeeze $60 to play the game, maybe 40 and some change will change your mind. Alright, so now back to the video. So the most lingering questions that we all have left usually deal with weapons and powers, and while this video didn't answer them all, it's an absolute great start. If you caught my latest news video yesterday morning, then you might have heard me talk about multiple videos as part of this series, and it looks like it will be just that. Weapons and skills was the first video, obviously, and the second one looks like we're going to get to dive into the different profiles available. Hopefully we'll hear more about the second video next week. So what are your thoughts, guys? Did y'all have any doubts about it, or did this video help quell some of your fears? Let me know in the comments below, because I'm curious to see what you all think about it. But enough about that, let's get into the video itself and see what we can learn about it when we slow it down. So starting off, we see a bit of an introduction, a couple of tech and biotic powers along with some combat. Nothing new, but we do get to see our first in-game cutscene that's made in engine. It looks like Sarah Ryder is about to go into her cryopod, or maybe she's just coming out. I'm not sure, but the in-game animation looks pretty good, guys. I mean, it seems like the other characters don't have quite as much detail as Sarah herself, but that's totally fine. It still looks pretty good. Now, one of the great things about this video is that we get to see a lot of biotic powers, including Singularity for the first time. But more so than that, we get a pretty good look at which weapons will be coming back, along with all the different kinds that we can expect to see. But first, let's check out the loadout screens. Now, we have a slot for melee and up to 4 weapons, but notice how it simply says weapon. Not primary or secondary, hand cannon or sniper. It has straight up 4 slots with the 2 at the end showing generic hand cannon images, which I'm assuming are on all of them if you have nothing equipped. So that to me sounds like you can equip 4 of anything, even 4 assault rifles if you want to. Different, but I'm okay with that. Now, the big thing to take away from this is this right here. The weight loadout is back, and if you remember, overloading with a ton of different weapons will drastically reduce your cooldown of your tech and biotic powers. So you have to make a choice of going light and depending on your skills, or go in heavy and use mostly weapons with the occasional skill. I've always liked this approach, guys. It makes you think tactically in about every situation. Also, you might see a quote-unquote new SMG called the Charger, but to me, it looks like the same old Tempest SMG from the original series. Now, I think it was changed purely because the ship is now called the Tempest. It looks like the exact same weapon. So in Andromeda, they are separating weapons into 4 categories: pistols, shotguns, snipers, and then of course assault rifles. Now SMGs, or submachine guns, they are represented within the pistol category for some reason. And furthermore, within those categories, there are 3 different weapon types within each. There are weapons that you and I are used to from the previous games known as Milky Way weapons. They are projectile-based weapons and require you to keep up with ammo use or, thermal clips. Then there are remnant weapons, that's the second category. They use beams as their projectile and are classified as extremely accurate with high rates of fire. They also use the overheat mechanic, so you never have to worry about ammo, but you do have to watch your heat build up. And then finally, the third category, Helios weapons, which are mostly plasma-based weaponry. And while they may fire at slower than usual speeds, they benefit by tracking their targets. Others are also charge-based. So they're kind of like the Geth shotgun, you know, the longer you hold the trigger, the more powerful the shot can be. But let's not forget the melee weapons. In here it looks like there are everything from Omni Blades to Krogan hammers and everything else in between. Now there are slim katana-like swords, and from the sound of it, even small shivs or dagger-like weapons. It goes without saying that smaller melee weapons are faster and lighter, and they usually do less damage than, say, you know, a Krogan hammer, which takes a bit longer to deliver a hit, but of course the hammer does a massive amount of damage. Your playstyle should tell you which one you want to use. Now before we go into skill, I wanted to back up a bit. First, this guy right here, Rokar Saboteur. Now we've heard this name before from the Game Awards gameplay when talking to Reyes. He says that it fits the Rokar profile.
Look for anything that might lead us to the killer.
The tracks make it look like an ambush.
Fits the Rokar profile. It's a start.
Now I'm not sure if Rokar is a faction from a species we already know of, or if maybe they're a brand new species called Rokar. From the look of the helmet, it has 6 lights in front, and that could just be for decoration, but also possibly lined up for eye ports. Perhaps they're a synthetic race. In any case, I thought this was something worth bringing up. Next, let's take a peek at all of these returning weapons. The Falcon, Avenger, Matic, Valkyrie, Revenant, and if you look over to the left, you can see that you can scroll down quite a bit more before you reach the end. Ladies and gents, there's going to be plenty of old weapons to choose from, and that is pretty sweet. Moving on to shotguns, there are quite a few coming back here as well. We have the Crusader, the Disciple, the Katana, the Awesome Piranha, and then from another look, you can see the Rehgar Carbine, the Crazy Venom Shotgun, and then also the new Ruzad Shotgun, which I talked about yesterday. The Ruzad was hinted at a week or so ago by one of the devs working on Andromeda, and it's the successor to the Claymore. You can also see it here on Drax's profile image, and it's also listed as his favorite weapon. Kind of excited to see what those double barrels are all about. Now unfortunately we don't get a good look at SMGs because, like I said, they're in the same category as sidearms, but we know the Charger is the new name for the Tempest, and then there's the Carnifex, the Hornet, the Predator, and then of course my favorite, the Phalanx. Now I'm sure more are in the list, as you can see off to the left. Just like the assault rifles, this list is just as long as the others, so again there's going to be tons of choices. And finally, the sniper rifles. Now the biggest thing I'm thankful for is that the Black Widow is back. I've always been a Widow fan, whether it's the original Widow or the Black Widow. Simply awesome. But more so than that, we have the Incisor, the Indra, and the Valiant. Those are back as well. So it looks like to me that we're bringing a ton of our old weapons back with us, and I'm completely okay with that. Now, moving on to skills, this was something I was most interested to see. Well, except to see the Black Widow, of course. But the main thing to take away here is that you can equip any skill from any of the 3 categories at the same time. So you can have a tech skill on your left bumper and then a biotic skill on the right. You can put them together to create combos that often lead to a detonation and increased damage. The cool thing is that each of these skills have their own separate menu, allowing you to allocate points into a certain playstyle. It's not just, fill in the next empty space and it gets more powerful. You can actually adjust each skill to your liking with different versions of each. Just like you see here, and like how it was in Mass Effect 3. You can select more team-based upgrades, or upgrades that offer support, or you can try to be as tanky as possible with as much health and shields and armor that it allows. Being able to customize every one of those while also putting points into the passive skills down there on the bottom, which are the triangle upgrades, that is amazing, guys. I can't even begin to imagine how many combinations there could be. This brings a whole new meaning to personalization. I can't wait to dig into all of them and see the differences of each. Now, one of the things I noticed throughout this gameplay is a completely new idea to me, and that is the idea of power cells. As you can see here, it says that certain powers consume power cells when used. You can replenish power cells at a supply cache. Now, I'm assuming those are only used up when you activate one of the more powerful skills. I don't know that for sure, but we'll find out soon. But having to worry about cooldowns and power cells, that's definitely a different step. Also, if you take a look at this frame right here, when the player scrolls over a trip mine, which you can barely see, it shows you on the bottom right that it takes 1 power cell to use a trip mine, and this talent can also hold a maximum of 2 cells. So I'm not quite sure how this mechanic works yet. Hopefully they'll dive into it a little more before launch. Also, while we were in the combat skills, I noticed something cool about the barricade. For a very brief second, you can see that we now have a blind fire mechanic. Similar to the Division, where you can be around a corner and just stick your gun out and fire with a lot less accuracy, but mostly stay hidden behind cover. You can see this right here. Now, whether or not it's possible with barricade alone, or if it can be done with any cover, that's unknown. But usually, if it can be done in one place, it's something present throughout the game. That's definitely a new step for Mass Effect. Okay, and the last thing we have here are biotics. Now, most of these are pretty self-explanatory if you're familiar with the trilogy. But the new one here is Backlash, and that is the shield you can create in front of you to soak up bullets. Think of it kind of like a shield from Titanfall. It does pretty much the same thing, and it has the chance to even return projectiles with added damage. Now, also notice the subtle words used in some of these upgrades. For instance, right here in Annihilation, you have the upgrade Biotic Wind. And I'm not sure if you guys caught it back when we were checking out the combat skills, but there was also an upgrade called Hold the Line, a nice homage to the series. Also, if we skip back towards the beginning of the video, I noticed something pretty neat here. Now, in this clip, they show off using the Nomad as cover, but look how the player gets there. You see that? It's almost like a blink maneuver. And also notice that it did not trigger any of the cooldowns. So it must be some kind of passive upgrade you can unlock, or perhaps it's a bonus talent within a certain profile. Or it could be a replacement for the jetpack, something you can switch in and out. Either way, leaping from cover to cover like that is extremely efficient. Since you can't be seen, you pretty much can't be hit, and that would end up being a lifesaver later down the road when you get into some harder fights. Also, some of the talents have a new twist to them, and that further allows for the use of your other skills to perform a sort of combo. For instance, in this scene here, you see that Ryder uses pull on the enemy, and you can see his skill light up on the bottom left when the bumper is pressed. Also, while the enemy is in the air, an explosive canister gets caught up in the mix, and then you can see Ryder use throw after that to launch both the enemy and the canister, causing a nice boom. After that, both skills are on cooldown, so that does mean that it takes both skills to pull off something like this. It's not just a new twist to simply pull only. So another cool thing is that you have to keep your eye on life support, as you can see on the bottom left. It will constantly drain when you're in hostile environments, but watch what happens when we walk right into the shade here. It instantly reacts that fast, allowing you to recuperate and recharge your life support. Also notice that some enemies will actually use the same skills that we have. This pariah dude walks out with Backlash Shield, and even though it doesn't work for him, it does tell you that there will be different types of battles and enemies to react and adjust to, which is something I've always thought about. You know, if we have all this tech and biotic powers, how is it that our enemies cannot use the same thing just as much as we do? Well, it looks like they can in Andromeda. And one of the last things to take a look at is how you can order your teammates to attack a target. As you can see here, whenever your reticle was on an enemy, you simply tag and then your buddies go to work. This is the first time we've actually seen how it looked. Now, of course, this was present in the trilogy, but it looks a little different here. Now, it was locked on pretty quick, so I'm assuming that it will be just like the other Mass Effect games, and all you have to do is toggle it with the D-pad. I'm still trying to figure out how we use our teammates' individual skills though. I haven't caught that yet, but also assumingly it's probably still the D-pad. But that's about it, guys. Besides a preview of a few profiles and a sneak peek at how you can favorite different loadouts, that's about it. Now, there was a ton of good information in there, but honestly, I'm more looking forward to seeing armor and crafting. That's where my remaining questions lie, and hopefully we'll have that answered soon enough. But that's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I cannot wait to see what's in store next. We're at right about a month away from launch, and like you, I cannot wait. As always, feel free to hit me up on Twitter @SlyNation or even on Facebook @SlyNationGaming. It's the easiest way to check out all the recent news about Mass Effect, Destiny, The Division, and much more. Keep an eye out for more videos coming out of my channel here soon, but until then, this is your boy Sly, and I will see you all next time.